This is Pete Feenstra on Sunday the 31st of July, live at the Boom Boom Club, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Zombies with Rod Argent.
Hello Pete.
Great to have you here, Rod.
Great to be here again.
Unbelievable, it should be your 50th anniversary.
It's unbelievable.
It's the power of rock, I guess, and the enduring appeal of the Zombies.
I always remember going down to Jim Rod, my cousin who plays bass with us, and was the bass player with Argent as well.
Yeah, of course.
He was at the very first rehearsal we ever did back in 1961 outside the Pioneer Club in St Albans.
You remember it?
In the Pioneer, I do. But he loaned us the gear for that gig, and before that, because he's my cousin, I used to always go down to his house. I didn't like pop music for the first 11 years of my life, and then he played me Elvis.
You were on rock and roll? Oh, that was then? Okay.
He played me Elvis, singing Hound Dog, and I suddenly got turned on to this extraordinary music.
And yet a lot of people associate you with classical music as well.
Well, I love music, right from, but the only music I sort of really, that spoke to me, apart from a little bit of jazz, because my dad was in a dance band from the age of 17 to the age of 83 actually. He had his own semi-pro dance band, but apart from that, I only really liked classical music, and then I heard Elvis when I was 11. Right. Completely turned me on.
Well, 11 years old, that kind of...
Well, exactly, but that was, and I still love Elvis of that vintage, you know, That's Alright Mama and Mystery Train and all the Sun stuff.
It's carried on through generations, of course.
Oh, it still sounds wonderful to me, all that.
So anyway, here we are. You've got a brand new album, your first album for how long? Long time.
Oh, quite a few years, yeah.
Breathe Out, Breathe In.
Yeah. And
that's available now?
It's available now. We've had some absolutely fabulous reviews. Not everybody gets it, but we've just had some reviews in from America, and like over here, really, you know, 50% of the reviews are just fantastic. And some people don't get it, some people don't like it. But we've just had a couple of stunning ones in America. But as you know, Pete, we've had some great ones over here as well.
And you've had, I think you're on the second single from that album now.
We are, it's just about to come out, yeah.
And what's that?
A Moment in Time.
Great song.
It's, yeah.
One of yours.
And I love the way it sounds. Not that we can get much bloody radio at the moment. It
applies to everybody.
It applies to everybody.
Yeah.
But when it is played,
in the UK.
I know, particularly in the UK. But when it is played, it sounds great on the radio. I'm only saying that because you don't ever know until you hear something on the radio. How it sounds.
No. It's amazing actually when you think back to the 80s when everybody went with the big studios and the big drum sound. And yeah, most people out there are probably listening on an old tranny or in their car. You know, I think Phil Spector got it right with Mono to start with all those years ago. Well, then he went big after that, of course, the Wall of Sound. So.
Well, he did, but it's extraordinary. I mean, yeah, you sweat blood getting the thing to sound absolutely fantastic. You really do. I mean, most people outside of the recording industry really do not know what goes into it. They honestly don't. And sometimes, I did a blind date thing in Colin recently for a radio station. And the guys were great, they were real music enthusiasts, but they put it on, and then after about 20 seconds they start talking to you. And you think, you've got no idea what went into the making of this.
But that's a DJ for you, I guess. That's that whole culture, which is kind of one of the reasons that rock got sidelined for a good few years.
Well, you're right.
But we were just reflecting on the fact that we were there at High Voltage Festival last year, which I think you did the year before with Argent. And it was a fantastic turnout, great lineup. That was 10 years ago. That probably could never have happened.
That's true.
Rock and metal as well, hard rock, all those genres were completely sidelined.
They were.
Which is incredible when you think back in the 80s, it was huge, but it's a cyclical thing, I guess.
It is cyclical, and it's very interesting because I was speaking to one of the bands that were playing there when we did High Voltage, and it was Opeth.
Right.
And the guy said, oh God, you were the band that I really wanted to see above everything else. He said, but we're on at the same time as you know. But it was really nice, but it is cyclical, because here was a young band who'd listened to all our stuff and knew it, and it's so nice, you know.
Yeah, but you have, as the Zombies, have influenced so many people, of course, and continue to do so. And as a result of that, I guess, that you've just been to Japan, which is great that you actually went there after what happened over there, of course. Was everything okay when you were...
Well, it was, although we experienced 2 earthquakes while we were there.
Wow,
I couldn't believe it. I was in my bedroom at 3:10 in the morning. Oh, no, 10 to 4, sorry, in the morning. I suddenly woke up and it was like being in a surreal dream. The room was moving around, and it was an earthquake. And then I said to the promoter the next day, "Did you feel the earthquake yesterday?" He said, "Oh yeah, only a small one." You know, so I thought, oh God. And then it happened 3 days later, and that was a 7.6 on the Richter scale, although the centre was way outside Tokyo. But Japan was great. Unlike many places, and I think something to do with the fact that so many young bands are kind enough to say nice things, particularly about Odyssey and Oracle, of course, our Odyssey and Oracle. We often get a very young audience, and like in Japan, we would play clubs, but they were rammed. It was like 400 to 500 seaters, absolutely rammed. The audience was basically sort of 22, 23 years old students who knew all the words, singing, and not only, this is interesting, not only Odyssey and Oracle, which they did know, but a lot of them were singing back to us our new songs that we just put into the set. Isn't that extraordinary?
Well, and when were you last there? As the Zombies?
Oh, 2002.
Right.
Well, that was with, I don't think we were calling ourselves the Zombies then, no, it was Colin Burstone and Rod Argent. We went over in 2002.
Yes. Yeah. So that's a significant difference.
Yeah. That was the last time we were there.
And it is the power of the brand name. I mean, I'm speaking as a promoter, but I think generally in music people go, oh, the Zombies.
It is brand name, I know.
And, but of course it served you well, very, very well. You've been in Europe, all over the place, Japan. Soon you're going to be playing the States for the Yardbirds, is it?
We've got, no, with the Straws.
I beg your pardon.
But it's not complete, some of it is by ourselves as well.
Yeah.
Some of it's with the Straws. This is, I mean, we've toured most years in the States for about the last 10 years, but this is a really big tour that we're doing. We've got 25 really, really good dates over there. So it's going to be a terrific tour.
And is the album going to be available in the States?
It's
to people out there?
It's only available on Amazon at the moment. It's not with a specific record company. But as I was saying to you just before we started this interview, we're getting some stunning reviews in the States as well now.
It's a good album, and we should talk a bit more about that perhaps. Breathe Out, Breathe In.
Yeah.
How long was that in the making?
Well, it was.
What was the pre-planning before you actually started writing? I know you've drawn songs from different parts of your eras and stuff, and some Collins.
Yeah.
But how long was that? You said to yourself, yes, let's do a Zombies album.
Well, in fact, we'd had 2 or 3 albums out that were live albums. No, I mean, I was thinking about going back to the Shepherd's Bush thing that the Zombies did. The original Zombies plus our touring band.
It was the 40th anniversary show, of course.
It was, and the year that followed that. And then we did a couple of things like we've just done, actually what is a great DVD of a live concert for Metropolis Studios for ITV Productions, but they've sold it independently. I think it's going to come out Sky Arts or whatever. But anyway, doing these things and doing so much live with no overdubs, I just thought, because Colin said, it is our 50th anniversary next year, this was a year ago. And he said, of us first getting together, and he said, it's about time for another studio album. I said, yeah, you're right. And so we started writing, I in particular started writing, and I thought it'd be great to do an album that has very much of the feeling of us recording quickly, the rhythm section tracks quickly, and with interaction between the band, very much like we've just been doing on the live stuff as well. So that was the basis in our heads for doing it, and it was actually a pretty joyous experience, I have to say. It was recorded over a period of a year, but we weren't recording for a year. I mean, we were touring, and in fact the tracks were actually done pretty quickly. One of the things that I did, which I thought, let's go back to the way we used to do a lot of the old Zombies track, which was where, for instance, if I wrote a song, I'd often write the bass part and the drum part, like in She's Not There.
So it's integral part of the song.
That's
what made it, particularly if She's Not There.
Well, that was true of the Time of the Season, that was true of She's Not There. And so I did that, and so what I would do is I'd write a song and I would demo it with just voice and piano, so Colin could learn the lead line, all apart from one track on the album. And then I would put the bass part down so Jim could learn it. Not always, he would put his own bits in as well, but that was the basis of what the track was. And then I'd take the thing round to Steve's. This is the joy of having small studios.
Nowadays.
And we'd talk it through together, and Steve would play along with the demo and everything. So we get it pretty prepared before the day of recording. So when we had the day of recording, usually the rhythm tracks were done in an afternoon, and that was the rhythm track. And then we would spend a day doing the lead vocal with Colin, and then there would be another day when generally I would do most of the harmonies, but I get Jim to do a line.
So this would be in sharp contrast, would it, to how you recorded in the 70s, particularly with Argent, not just you, but the whole raft of bands back then where you spent a lot of time, I guess, in the studios and stuff like that?
I think we did spend more and more time in the studio. That became the culture of how things were recorded then. Things were less prepared. With the Zombies originally, things had to be extraordinarily prepared because we only had we didn't have much money then. No. We weren't given big budgets, so we knew we had to get...
You didn't know a lot, of course, when you first went.
No.
Suck it and see.
It's suck it and see. But we were prepared as possible, and so we go in very prepared and we get a track down, and usually a B-side as well in those days, in 3 hours. Yeah. Later on, with Odyssey and Oracle, we were producing for the first time, and we had basically 8 tracks, even though it was 2 4-track machines together. Yeah. But that was the technique that the Beatles had pioneered in Abbey Road, and that's what we took.
It's a big influence, of course. Yeah.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah, it was a big influence on everything.
And just one other thing, not strictly to do with the Zombies, that people may not know about. You weren't playing for a number of years because you were working on television themed music and stuff like that. Do you want to tell everybody what you were doing? They may not know about that.
Well, I never stopped playing, but I came off the road in '75 with Argent, and I just thought I've got to broaden my musical horizons really. So I thought for a year I'm just going to do whatever is offered to me. I'm deliberately not going to write anything myself. And all sorts of things came in. I did an album with Roger Daltrey, and after that, The Who asked me to play on their new album. Because it took so long to record, I only ended up on 3 tracks, 2 of which I was credited on, but the track I enjoyed the most on the album, apart from Who Are You, which I was on, was Love Coming Down on Me, which I didn't get credited, but that is me on that track.
Well, set the records.
Set the records and then Andrew Lloyd Webber got me to record Variations, which I did with Gary Moore and John Heisman, and that was #1 album. Barbara Thompson, John Heisman, and
who live in Sutton, by the way.
Who live in Sutton, and they became very good friends. And that was really nice. So, and that led into writing for television and television films, because we did a South Bank show. In fact, the very first South Bank show, and the head of music was there while we were recording it and said to me, why don't you write some stuff for telly? And I did a couple of World Cup themes, did lots of music for television, film background, etc. So that suddenly stretched into quite a few years. And then I hooked up with Peter Van Hook, who was in Van Morrison's band originally as a drummer, great musician, and we did lots of production. Very successfully actually for people like, usually first albums for people like Tanita Tikaram,
which
4.5 million albums, and
brand new artist at the time.
Brand new artist, and we did that in my studio, mixed in my studio as well. There were some American artists. There was a Joshua Canston, quite a middle of the road artist, but he had 3 top 20 American hits from that album. And a South American artist called Soraya. We did a Natalie Griffith album, which was the first one to make the top 50 albums over here, called Late Night Grand Hotel. So all that went on, and then I suddenly thought, I can't do any more production because I'm too selfish basically. I wanted to do things that were my own creatively, you know. Even though Pete and I were playing on all these albums, I wanted to do my own stuff again. And just at that point, I did a charity show for John Dankworth to raise some money at the stables in Milton Keynes. Colin was in the audience, got up, sang a couple of songs, and afterwards he said, we really should do a few things. And 6 gigs that we planned turned into 11 years of touring around the world.
And it's as good now as it's ever been. I mean, it's fantastic.
It is great. The band is great, and that's why we do it, Pete. I had to capitalise it for the first 2 or 3 years. It wasn't a question of making a buck. It was the opposite. You know, especially going to America and all that sort of thing. But it's turned around now. We've created a really good situation in America now, and really we play in places like Paris, Japan. I've just told you about. Some places in America, we often get older audiences, of course we do, and that's fantastic. People that have stayed with us. But
people that haven't been out for years and years and years, and suddenly start coming to shows again.
They do actually, and I think live music is strong again.
And Canada, you did very well in there. I heard about that as well. You know,
yeah.
So anyway, it's great that you're back again. One more question, Rod, which is Argent, the band. You did quite well. Did you come back with that? Is there any more plans for? You have time for that?
Well, apparently we are doing a few more gigs after Christmas. But the thing is that the way I feel about it, just personally, I put so much into the creative side of what we're doing with the Zombies, and this band has really been together for 10 years now, and we've really cemented, and it's really a buzz to play with them every night on stage. And I've only got so much creative energy to actually
of
put into, and it's very important to have paths forward. If we were just doing old catalogue, I'd be bored out of my head.
No.
I love playing the old songs, I really do, but it's got to be within the context of feeling fresh energy as well, creative.
And fresh energy is precisely what the Zombies is about now. And
it really is.
Breathe Out, Breathe In is such a which actually I was going to say it's such a refreshing album. The thing I actually said to you in a previous interview, I think, was the fact that there's a feeling of the band's legacy, but it's been brought right up to date. You think that's a fair comment?
I think it's totally fair, because we're writing songs now and recording them in the same way as we did when we were 18 years old, which was just.
But we've all got the experience behind it.
Well, yeah, but but saying I've got this, or whoever has got this musical idea. Hey, we just try and make something work, basically, which is what we were doing when we were 18. And in the end, and at the time, we were regarded as being very uncommercial. When She's Not There came out, people said, this is not a commercial record, this is never going to be a hit. Time of the Season, they said, not a chance in hell. And then they went on to become...
It took its time.
It did take its time, but it went on to become, it's now been played 7 million times in America, I mean...
And this is the man that was involved with it, wrote it, still doing it. It's with Colin Blunstone, Steve Rodford, Jim Rodford, they're called the Zombies.
Colin's singing, as his voice has changed slightly, as things do as you get older, but in some ways it's stronger than it's ever been, and he's singing just as well in a slightly different way than he's ever sung, which is fantastic. Everybody's playing with just as much energy as ever, and that's why we're doing it still. Well,
it's been an absolute joy. Thank you, Feenstra. This is for www.getreadytorock.com. Thank you to Anne Pioton on camera, and good afternoon.